Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K, and we are rearing the end of Villain Month, and it's almost Halloween, so I figured I'd continue my villain videos with doing a boss list, which is something I don't really do that much in October because of Villain Month. But to keep up with the theme, and since next week is Halloween, I decided to go for my list video that I don't think anyone's ever done. I've been watching YouTuber Josh Scorcher, the Fiery Joker, plug for a good number of years now, and I love his top lists. I love his countdowns. I love seeing all the different bosses and all the different lists that he's been able to make, and that's inspired me to branch out of my zones and go out and find other types of lists to do. And this one, I have definitely come up with on my own, and the research in this video, oh my god, I've never been more irritated. Sticking to the Halloween theme, like I said, I am going over my top 13 ghost bosses, the phantasmal entities, the spooktacular monstrosities, the enemies that put the scare in us one way or another. It's a list that no YouTubers or people who do lists have ever done. And coming up with it is not as easy as it looks, considering I have a very minimum range when it comes to video games, because I don't play a lot of RPGs, I don't play World of Warcraft, I don't play a lot of games where technically you could find ghost bosses in general. So this is going to be, again, like I said, why top 13? Because only the odd can be number one. Well, this is definitely one of my weirdest and oddest lists I've ever made. So, obvious rules, only games I've played or bosses I've beaten in said game. One per series. And again, this one, again, so obscure, I doubt they do it more than once in a certain series. Also, I had to kind of limit down certain bosses because some bosses come back from the dead. So what constitutes as a ghost boss? Well, I had to kind of really narrow down my list to three main criteria. One, they actually have to be somewhat ghostly. So a phantom, a spectre, a ghost, they have to actually be known as an entity, a ghost, phantom, a spectre, whatever may have you. Two, having ghost abilities is a plus. So if they turn invisible, if they go intangible, if they have possessing abilities where they can possess certain characters, if that happens. Three, the ghost aspect is just one part of the list. I also go for how much the boss does the ghost aesthetic, how they do it in their own unique way. And basically and again, the bigger the ghost, the bigger the motif, the higher it is on the list. If it's kind of a ghost boss, but kind of has a little bit of humanity in it, again, it still counts. They don't have to be dead in order to constitute being a ghost. They have to be a spiritual entity. And I hope this list kind of works, because it was something I wanted to do for a while. So here we go for Gamer K's top 13 ghost bosses. Why top 13? Because only the odd can be number one here. Let's begin. Okay. I'm cheating a little bit on this because they are ghosts, but a human is still using them. So I'm going to Pokemon again. Man, I haven't talked about Pokemon this much in a good while, ever since my plant and my aquatic bosses. I mean, I think the last time I did it was my worst villain list, and that was a long time ago. So obviously, ghost typing, one of my favorite types, isn't utilized as much when it comes to bosses in Pokemon. I mean, Agatha is definitely one of the best trainers of ghost types, but I never beat her. I never beat the Agatha of the Elite Four, so she's obviously out. Although I do give credit for the anime for that sick Gengar release. I'm gonna put it up there, God, that was awesome. So that limited me to three gym leaders. One I haven't played, I think it's either Sword and Shield or the brand new one that came out, Violet and Red and Violet, whatever. One of them I've never played, so it doesn't count. One who I love in the anime, but never beat as much to my memory. So that leaves, Fantina, being the 5th gym leader of the Diamond and Pearl series, threw me for a loop. The furthest thing you could imagine for a ghost type leader. I mean, I was expecting a woman who, think Lucy from The Loud House. Wow, I'm making a very obscure reference there. Or basically what that Mimikyu woman was in the Aloha region. But Fantina, being a coordinator and kind of a fashion Pokemon coordinator extraordinaire, really threw me for a loop. And again, it just shows, just because it's a particular type doesn't mean it's going to be a particular leader. And her team was really good, being her Gengar, her Miss Magius, and her Drifblim. And I like how they're all female, because she's a coordinator. It was kind of I don't know if it was intentional, but it was really good. Her team definitely gave me a big issue when I first played Diamond and Pearl, but my team obviously won. One thing I really love about Fantina is the fact that she definitely goes over what a ghost type leader, like stereotype wise. I mean, Morty wasn't a big stereotype. I mean, he was a pretty cool guy, but had no real personality to him but I still loved him in the anime. So yeah, the anime definitely made Fantina a little bit more extravagant than what she is here. And that's why she's on the bottom of the list. She doesn't really fully anticipate what a ghost type should do. But at the same time, she does it with her own unique flair, which I'm okay with. Going to a childhood memory of mine, Shadow Showdown was definitely not one of the better games of my childhood. Obviously, I'm talking about Fairly Odd Parents Shadow Showdown. And halfway mark of the game, we get a really interesting boss fight. So, a little context. After retrieving 2 of the ingredients for the anniversary muffin, we need to figure out how the magic jewel was stolen. So we go to Oberon and Titania, the old fairy king and queen. Yes, I get that they're named after real folklore fairy king and queen. Yes, I get the joke. I get it. We go to their mansion where the jewel was stolen from a door that never opens. And the door talks to us. Seriously, was this Pee-wee's Playhouse in another life? So we investigate throughout the mansion, and we find a hidden room in the bedroom, which leads to an underground area or hidden area, which goes into the treasure room. And what waits for us is the Red Phantom, which is a pretty cool boss. It was definitely a fun boss throughout in the game. I mean, when I was a kid, I had troubles with it for a couple reasons. One, because it was a phantom, it could turn invisible, so we couldn't see it. Luckily, one of our wishes was a magic magnifying glass that can detect magic. And it revealed. So the invisibility thing isn't a big thing. What really makes this boss fight fun is the way we defeat it. There are 4 boxes in the treasure room, and with the mansion upside down, we can flip the house literally upside down, which puts the roof as the floor and the floor as the roof, and vice versa. So by getting the ghost to be underneath the blocks, we flip the mansion so that the boxes drag the phantom onto the ground, damaging it. And because this is a Nickelodeon game, the boss fights are pretty simple. Do the same thing 3 to 4 times, and the boss fight is over. What really makes this boss fight really fun is just the overall idea of it. I mean, there are ghosts within. Actually, no, there aren't ghosts in this mansion. There are basically knights of a suit of armor that are stopping our path, so we wish to turn ourselves into a ghost, kind of, which gives us the ability to go through certain objects and to scare the bejesus out of the Black Knight ghosts. Out of the Black Knights. But the one thing that keeps this list on the lower side of being a ghost is that it is ghostly, but it's really just Oberon Titania in a phantom costume made with magic cloth that makes them go invisible. Which is how we found them and how we found the hidden room. Because it went from the magic loom, and because of that, it left traces of magic, which with the magnifying glass, we were able to follow the trail to their room. Also, you can obviously tell it's them because the Phantom's voices are exactly the same. So, yeah, there's no big reveal there. I mean, it's supposed to be a big reveal considering it's a kid's show. It's a kid's game. But at the same time, it's still a great boss fight. And it definitely shows what future boss fights at Ghosts can be in the future. I mean, I wish they revamped this game. I wish we get a remaster of the Fairly Odd Parents games. Just so I can relive my childhood memories. Next up. Yeah, it's kind of stupid if I don't include one of these, but I've never beaten Luigi's Mansion, nor have I played Luigi's Mansion 3, and I definitely did not play Dark Moon because I don't have a game. I never had a GameCube, nor do I have a Switch. So Luigi's Mansion games are an off for me, but I did play them with my at my friend's house when I was a kid, and I never beat it fully, but if I had to pick one ghost boss to be on this list, again, rules, only bosses I've beaten. I'm going to go with Boolossus. The Area 3 main boss, and an interesting concept, and taking place on the roof of the house, of the mansion, which perfectly makes sense because the first boss fight took place in a child's room. Second one took place in the graveyard out back, so why not have one on the roof where there are many boos and they merge into one giant super boo, which is freaking amazing. And the name Boolossus really makes me laugh. And the boss fight, despite, and also it definitely plays on Luigi's fear of, ghosts and everything oversizing him. But the boss fight is actually pretty simple. You basically use your vacuum to suck up the ghost a little bit, swing it into one of the oddly placed unicorn statues on the roof, and then it splits into its many boos. And then you use the freeze modification to freeze the boos and suck them up. Yeah, it's pretty basic boss fight, but what gets it on my list of being a great ghost boss is the more the boos you collect, the smaller Boolossus gets. And I do love that. Whenever they do a many into one boss fight, whenever you defeat a majority of them, make the boss smaller. It definitely adds to the atmosphere of the boss fight. Especially that one last boo that is going all over the place, acting like it's trying to screw you all the time. But again, it's a simple boss fight, great atmosphere, and definitely does something that a lot of boo bosses haven't done in recent years. I mean, the King Boo boss in Paper Jam was okay. It wasn't anything spectacular. There's a boo right beside me, isn't there? Okay. Going once again into my childhood. Yeah. I criticized the Nicktoons Unite game a lot, mostly because it wasn't the best game that they ever came up with. But one good thing about it was the Danny Phantom world, because out of the 4 main characters, we've already been in the first 3. We've had numerous SpongeBob games where we got to explore Bikini Bottom. 2 Jimmy Neutron games, both of them drive my cousin insane with flashbacks. Every time I bring it up, I'm pretty sure flashbacks goes back through his head where I gotta smack him to knock him out of it. We had 2 Fairly Odd Parents games, which were great, but we never had a full Danny Phantom game, which sucks. So this was the only way we could get one, and I do love that we get to fight one of my favorite villains of cartoons, and just one of my favorite characters in general of Danny Phantom, Vlad Plasmius. Oh, I just love this guy. I love him so much. And his boss fight is great. I mean, none of the bosses in the Nicktoons Unite game are especially fantastic. Primarily because the controls and everything about the game is kind of wonky at times. And yeah, I use that word a little loose because the game is still good in my opinion. But again, the controls and everything are kind of wonky and kind of laggy. But Vlad being the second boss, because we do have to fight Walker in the prison. Man, they're bringing out all my favorites in this game, which I love. So, fighting Vlad is really good. I mean, Vlad's boss fight is it's not until near the end when he's low on energy that he brings out the ghost security guards from the ghost zone. And also he'll use his ghost powers to bring down sky attacks like meteors on us, which is awesome. And I love the way we fight him is by doing Danny's ghost abilities anyway. Vlad will produce his force field around us when he can still attack and we can't defeat it. So, as Danny, we overshadow Jack, who has the ghost gauntlets on, and we bust that freaking barrier down and beat the living heck out of Vlad, which is amazing. It's great. The reason it's, again, like the other 3 on the bottom, the reason it's somewhat lower on the list is Vlad, much like all the bosses in the game, they don't really do that much in terms of fighting. I mean, Vlad will use his energy beams, he'll use his energy comets, he'll bring out ghost guards, but he doesn't really do a lot. I mean, we hit him once and he goes in tangent and goes away. And then he brings up his force field again, in which we will have to get more energy in order to use our special ability, in order to take over Jack again, and basically rinse and repeat. He doesn't do anything much as a ghost, but the presence he has, and it's great. I still love Vlad 100%, but the boss fight, as cool as it is, it just doesn't have the kind of atmosphere. I mean, we're in his throne room, but it's kind of empty. I mean, yeah, this game was like so many years ago, so of course they didn't do it, anything super fantastic with it. But at the same time, I still love it. It definitely makes my list, and it makes the 10th spot because it does so good, and because of the nostalgia I have, and for us using ghost abilities to beat him. So that's an added bonus of why it's at this spot of the list. Man, I'm really sticking with Nickelodeon right now. One of my all-time favorite games, near the end of the game, near the end level, a level that I think a lot of 90s kids like me who were going into 2000s, loving the nautical nonsense of SpongeBob SquarePants. I think a lot of you know which ghost boss I'm talking about in this list. I am talking about the Flying Dutchman from the ship graveyard, the Flying Dutchman's graveyard in Battle for Bikini Bottom near the end of the game. And if you've played the original one from on PlayStation 2 like I did, you can all agree that that and the Kelp Forest were the worst missions levels in the game because it was so dark, because the TVs back in the day were so dark that we kept dying because we couldn't see where the hell we were going. Gotten that out of my system. I'm ready to talk about the boss. Basically, in this level, the robots have taken over the Flying Dutchman's ship, and we are asked by him to help him retrieve it. But after we do, the Dutchman now decides he wants to keep the golden spatula that he was going to reward us with. And this is the only boss fight in the game where we don't play as SpongeBob for any part of the boss fight. And I love that. I love how we get to be Sandy and get to beat the living crap out of this ghost. It would have been great if we got to fight, I guess, Prawn as Patrick would have been really cool. But yeah, this is the only time when we play as someone else other than SpongeBob. Like, it's not a halfway, it's a mid-level boss, so it's only got 3 lives. But man, does the Dutchman make us work for it. Having it be on a small platform and having him just use all sorts of abilities, like using his laser eye beams, which does like a zigzag pattern, having to dodge that, and he goes in tangent. The only way to hurt him is pretty ridiculous. After a good number of laser, you know what? I just gotta make this joke. When did the Flying Dutchman have the pig talisman? When did he get heat beam eye lasers? Seriously, I don't know. Also, he'll push his nose and spew fire out of it as he goes off on us. Dodge him and then use Sandy's ability to lasso his tail. And that hurts him, apparently. Yeah. Do this, and the longer the boss fight goes, the more frequent the eye lasers will be, which is great. It definitely keeps you on your toes. But, no, seriously, how does roping his tail hurt him? Would have been better if we got behind. We do have to get behind him and rope him, so roping him would have been a little bit better, but he's a ghost. How the hell does this hurt him? I would have loved this if this was a drawn-out boss fight. Like, it was a boss fight where we couldn't win, and then it just gets drawn out. It would have been a little bit better. But again, it's so simplistic, really fun, and again, just nautical nonsense for a boss fight. That's all I can say. Okay, we are finally out of the goofy boss fights. We're out. And one of the first serious ones in another series that I love with a passion, Mega Man Star Force. And this one is our first boss fight in Star Force 2. Gives off a great ghostly appearance. First, having the Boo Hat viruses, which are really fun, blocking our path, and we have to... Yes, being a Ghostbusters parody, we have to suck them up with our vacuum, which is also technically a Luigi's Mansion joke too. We get to fight Hyde, who is who's a great villain. Basically, he's a theater guy who always says the script or stage right. He always talks in theater speak, and he uses his ancient star carrier to release Phantom in order to merge with him in order to become Phantom Dark. Phantom Dark? Dark Phantom, sorry. Dark Phantom. And first off, I love the design. I love the design of this boss. It's very Phantom of the Opera mixed with Jack the Ripper vibe with that London-esque suit. and Kane, and I love his boss fights. We in Mega Man tradition, you know, mostly we fight this guy twice in this game. Twice in number 3. He makes a return, and he's a lot worse in number 3. So number 2 is where his boss fights are being distributed. It's all basically the same thing. He uses the simple attacks as he floats around the area, swinging his cane at us multiple times, releasing a giant phantasmic claw coming out of his torso, and when he takes his cape and spins around, creating a slashing attack. Again, Mega Man bosses in this game have like 3 or 4 attacks, and these 3 are his only attacks. I mean, his health does get higher as the game goes on, so in true fashion. But I really love him. Also, he makes multiple appearances throughout the game, not as a boss fight, but still using his showmanship and his ability to manipulate people in order to give them the star carriers in order to cause chaos. The reason, but again, he's a little bit lower on the list, but he's starting off the list is because the ghost aesthetic is definitely with him, but it's not fully prominent as with the other bosses in the game. Like, if I were to do, like, a beast-themed list, Yeti Blizzard would definitely be on the list because he's a beast. But again, Hyde's personality is what pushes the Phantom aesthetic forward. And exit stage right. Great ghost boss fight. Great boss in general. An okay character villain, but at the same time, you know what? Like I said, exit stage right. Okay, finally we get another Mario boss on this list, and it's one of my favorites. From the galaxy, we've got Bouldergeist, one of the better ghost bosses on this list because of its uniqueness. And I love it for being that. I'm gonna say this right out front. Nintendo has a thing for making head and giant hand bosses with no body, with nothing else. Seriously, we can do a whole list of that. Actually, I think Scorcher might do that because he's said it a number of times too. So Bouldergeist is a great ghost boss. Also taking place in a Boo Mansion galaxy. Could we put the name of it on here, like, when we can get into editing? Thank you. Basically, his whole motif is, like, this phantasmal entity being merged with some of the rubble and the gravel that's on the area, which is great. He basically uses his attacks to punch us, slam his fists down. Again, another trope in any Nintendo boss where they have bosses like that. But the way we beat him is not with the Boo Mushroom that we use to traverse through the level, which I'm okay with. He releases the Bomb Boos, which are the black boos, and we grab them by the tongue and we swing them around to destroy his arms, leaving just his head, in which he will throw stones at us in succession. And once we damage his head a little bit more, it's revealed to be this black phantasmal specter blob with its uvula hanging down. So we got to hit that with a boo again. Do this a couple times, and Bouldergeist is down for the count. What makes Bouldergeist a little bit higher on the list is how well he emphasizes the ghost aspect of the level. I mean, yeah, they could have used a generic boo for a boss fight, but they didn't. They came up with a unique boss, a unique character, and I just love his overall look. It's what every person who loves ghost bosses would want. Because it's no boo, it's bolder. Okay, seriously, who do I talk to about making these jokes? Going back to the Mega Man series, I put this guy on my favorite of the Link Navis for Mega Man Battle Network 6, and he's making a return as a ghost boss fight because he is a phantom, he is phantasmic, he he disappears. He's got a frickin' Reaper scythe, and he's ghoulish beyond compare. I am talking about Erase Man from Mega Man Battle Network 6 Grigor series version. I just love this guy, and even though he's a Link Navi, so we get to control him during his section and also a little bit later in the game, and our whole thing for him is to assassinate evil Navis, and then when we fight him, he's just, I just love his boss fight. So I just love his boss and his design. I mean, look at this guy. If you were to put Mega Man Battle Network and come up with a Navi that emphasizes ghosts, Grim Reapers, and assassinating people, okay, with the assassinating people, you definitely think of Searchman, but this guy is a close second, and I'm mad that we couldn't get him in the anime. I mean, we technically did, and I hate him in it, but this one I like better. He's sarcastic, he's grim, pun intended, and just his battle is just so much fun. It's one of my favorite ones in the game. He slashes you with his Reaper Scythe. He sends out purple mist ghoul phantasms at you. He uses the eye on his torso to paralyze you just so he can sneak in for the kill. Erase Man gets on this list for being one of my favorite ghostly entities that we actually get to control, which makes him all the better. That we get to control him a little bit before we get to fight with him. Although we don't get access to all of his abilities, just his Reaper Scythe and his Paralyzed Beam, which, again, I still love. You know what? I can't in good conscience make a list like this without having this guy on the list. From one of my favorite games as a kid, Ben 10, Protector of Earth, we have Ghost Freak, looking even sicker than he did in his alternate form in the show, which is great. And I love that Steve Bloom came back to voice him because, oh my god, I never played Vilgax Attacks, and I've seen that boss fight, and it fails in comparison to Protector of Earth. It's such a great boss fight. Fighting Ghost Freak in a theater. You know what? Let me check something out, guys. Let me just check something out just so I can Ben 10 Protector of Earth levels. I just want to get this one exact because, again, this is one of my favorite games. But anyway, again, Ghost Freak not just being a side character that is random, you know, like how they do multiple games, like TV show games where you bring in a lot of the enemies just to have them in there. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Gold Coast Theater, which I believe is like Chicago-ish. I know I'm kind of blanking right now, but again, having to fight Ghost Freak in a theater is fantastic. And he definitely emphasizes what a ghost boss should be. I mean, his weakness is to light, which is stupid, but that's his kind of species. So we have to use Wild Vine that we just acquired to grab one of the rope pulleys and open the curtains to shine the light on him. However, it's not that easy. He brings out the 3 enemies that we fight in and basically the levels with him, which is the Ben Wolf, the Ben Mummy, and the Victor Frankenstein, and the Victor monsters, which are from Anorthatos, his home planet, and he possesses them, making the monsters stronger, but also giving him protection from the sunlight. So it's and I like this one because he doesn't just bring them out to fight for him. He is possessing one in order to steer clear of the sunlight. So after we beat after we defeat the host, he has to go out, and then we shine the light on him to damage him. And then he brings us into the further ground of the theater, where he's charging up something for some reason, but doesn't really hurt us, where we have to use a light puzzle to shine the light off the reflective mirrors of statues, to shine the light on him, and then the full battle begins, where we get to fight him in a darkened area with the giant purple neon light, which is beautiful. It's perfectly done. His attacks are menacing. He still possesses some of the enemies to make himself stronger. And then it ends up to the last QTE section, where we get to blast him back into the null void. Again, Ghost Freak. They could have this boss fight up, like a lot of games do. Like, they could have done it like Vlad did. I mean, I know I like that boss fight, but Vlad is a great boss. They could have had him do his duplicates, to do his many beams, to show his superiority to Danny, but they didn't do that. Ghost Freak, he brings out the monsters to possess them, to hide from the light, increase their strength to defeat Ben, using his own abilities, which are terrifying enough. He uses his tendrils to attack, his sharpened claws. Everything of Ghost Freak's boss fight is what I loved of Ben 10 as a kid, and we actually get to fight him instead of just... Okay, yeah, like I said, he possesses the enemies, but it makes the boss fight better, because that's what Ghost Freak does. And yes, I know his name is Sakara or whatever from Omniverse, but no, he will always be Ghost Freak to me. So this is a perfect example of what a ghost boss should be in future games. So take notes, people. This is how you do a ghost boss. But he's only number 5 because there are some bosses that kind of have that more ghostly aspect. I mean, yeah, he's an alien ghost, but a ghost nonetheless. I was so tempted to come up with a gag to put on here, but sadly, there are no gag ghost bosses. I tried to have fun ghost... I mean, they're all fun, but... Technically, this is a ghost because this person is dead, and it's their spirit. And I'm pulling a big rabbit out of a hat, ladies and gentlemen. Tutankhamun from Assassin's Creed Origins, Curse of the Pharaohs DLC. Yeah, okay, yeah, let me explain. It does count because we are in the afterlife realm, technically. So, again, it counts. And he is the final boss, so that makes him a grand specter. The spirit of an ancient pharaoh that isn't playing card games for once. And his boss fight is beyond hard. I mean, he doesn't do any ghostly abilities like Vlad or Ghost Freak or the Flying Dutchman, but he does have this grand spear that he uses, and he does... Okay, he's basically on this list because he's a great ghost, being an ancient spirit locked away and being released because of hate. And the where we fight him is this awesome dark throne room in the Deadland, which is what I'm calling it. I know it's called the Duat in ancient Egypt, but it does something that a lot of the other boss fights don't really do, which is atmosphere. The atmosphere of this whole place, you can tell that we are in the land of the dead fighting one of the greatest ancient pharaohs ever. And for him to literally be in this dark throne room, which is beautiful. It's beautiful. Just highlights the atmosphere. So the other bosses are on this list. Like the ones before him are on this list because of their great ghostly appearance, their great boss fight, their great attacks. This boss fight is here because of its ghostly atmosphere, having it be the literal afterlife, and this giant palace in the middle of it all, and to have this ancient pharaoh be our opponent. It's hard. It's a hard boss fight. But yeah, it's great to have this ancientness. I mean, it's not like a giant... I like that they did it the actual ancient pharaoh, instead of having it be a monster that was the Isu, the people who came before, one of their machinations or one of them. I'm happy that they actually did the ancient pharaoh spirits, which I love. And that's why this boss fight gets on higher on the list. It's not above the top three, but it definitely is a great boss fight that I love playing every time I replay Origins. It's such a great one, and I hope we can get back into doing these kinds of missions in future installments. I doubt it, but it was the last good one. That's all I gotta say. Huh. Haven't talked about Kingdom Hearts in this list. Well, I guess my lucky streak has come to a screeching halt, isn't it? The next one's Kingdom Hearts, isn't it? Yeah, I kind of figured. Although, I'm gonna be honest, this is the one that gave me a lot of difficulty when I was a kid. But now when I played Remaster, this one still gave me a lot of trouble. From one of my favorite worlds of Kingdom Hearts 2, the Grim Reaper boss fight of Port Royal. And definitely having a better atmosphere and better design than some of the Heartless bosses during the revisits. I mean, okay, technically there's only 3 of them. But this one was definitely done super well. Also being from, having Luxor basically bring this Heartless out from the darkness and the greed and of the medallions and the treasure chest. Having the Grim Reaper Heartless be a manifestation of the greed of the hearts of people who touch the gold is beautiful. And the design of the Grim Reaper is so simplistic. They did like a ghoulish being with its giant hammer-ish scythe. Like, it's not a scythe. It's kind of like a hammer, a whacking weapon, which I love. Okay. First boss fight, very, very easy. And considering it is a ghost in the Port Royal level, magic definitely affects it really well. From fire to the thunder to the ice. Until Luxor reveals the big twist. Not having all the pieces of the medallion, of all the medallions in the chest, the Grim Reaper reveals its alternate form with 3 ghoul heads surrounding it, making it invincible. Except magic attacks, which do affect it. Doesn't damage it, they do affect it, which makes it great. And the fact that we have to find the 4 medallions that are taken first before we can do the big boss fight in the giant square of Port Royal. And I love that they don't just make it done. In order to defeat the Grim Reaper, we have to have every single medallion in the chest before we can even damage it. And it's got more health from the last fight, since the last fight, which I love. Excuse me. But again, what I love is even in its alternate form, the 3 ghost heads do heavy damage to you. And I love the reaction commands of how we get the medallions back from the Grim Reaper. You can either use the reaction commands as it's absorbing the coins from the medallions from the chest, or you can use your magic attacks to damage it and it will flail around or hopping around somewhat as it drops medallions. And then we gotta get all the medallions, put them back in the chest, and then it will revert to its weakened state. And I love this boss fight for that reason. It takes the aspect of the curse of the medallions and make it work with the boss fight. of having to put all the coins, the medallions back before we can even defeat it, because the Heartless is connected to the chest. And I love that. They could have done it so bland by having us have to attack the chest in a way, which would have sucked. But the way they did it, it's a unique boss fight with a unique mechanic for a great ghost boss fight. And I love it for that. And that's all I got to say about that boss. Sevi? Oh, good God, we're talking about a boss fight that literally made me feel like a ghost, because all the color went out of my face. I was enraged beyond the afterlife, and it definitely made me want to make my controller into a ghost. I am talking about one of the final bosses. Okay, technically it has to be one of the final bosses, because we can't progress to the end of the game until we beat it. I am talking about the Phantom Express from frickin' Cuphead. Great. Another Cuphead boss is on this list. Is near the high part of a list. I hate these boss fights, but at the same time, I love them. They are so unique. And to have this one, we're literally fighting an entire caboose while on a rail. It's great. First, we got to fight the Phantom part of the Phantom Express, which is this ghoulishly blue eyes in the hand ghost, which shoots out its eyeballs at us constantly. And then, after defeating it, we go next to these two... You know what? I don't even know what the hell these things are. They will shoot lightning at us from one end towards the middle. And plus, one good thing about this boss fight is the platform we are on is sectioned into the middle, left, and right spots. So depending on if stuff is attacking us, we gotta parry it in order to move backwards or forwards in order to evade certain attacks. And these things will shoot lightning breath at us for some reason. And then after we defeat these things, we fight the skeleton conductor, who's giant head and hands. Okay, seriously, what is with video games with giant head and two hands? Like, is there a quota I'm not aware of for video games where they have to have that at least a couple times a year? Someone answer me. Where he will pop up randomly, either having his head in the middle, two hands on the sides, or have the two hands together and his head is on the other side, where he'll slam his hands down. And you'd think that'd be enough. But no, we are literally fighting the entire train as the train comes to a grinding halt and becomes an iron horse, technically, moving. And we'll have to parry its tail in order to open up its beating heart, which is the furnace. And I gotta admit, the Phantom Express pulls out all the stops to try to stop us from it reaching its destination. It's a great phantasmic boss fight. I mean, normally you think of a boss fight with ghosts in a mansion or in a graveyard, but this one definitely makes an entire train and turns it into a great character. I mean, the four characters that are in the train are great too, but the fact that they gave the train its own personality definitely accompanies the time of what the game is trying to go for. That cartoon aesthetic where anything and everything can be alive, which literally makes me not wonder how anyone goes to the bathroom in that universe if anything and everything can be alive. But overall, the Phantom Express is a great ghost boss because it literally has a ghost in it, for one, but it definitely has that funky feel that I look for in a Cuphead boss fight, and it definitely does its job. But there's one boss fight that is more of a phantasmal threat. So let's take a look. I ain't afraid of no ghost. Yeah, like I'm gonna do a ghost boss list and not have anything from the best trilogy ever Okay, I mean 2 movies and a game that is basically number 3, the Ghostbusters video game. I'm talking about the anime. I'm talking about the live action one, not the shitty cartoony one, which is bull. So many bosses, so many amazing ghosts and phantoms and deities. But which one gets the top of the list? Slimer. Yeah, right. Like, I'm putting Slimer at the top of the list. That's a good boss list. Nope, I'm talking about, you know what? It's ironic. He topped the list of my ranking every enemy and boss in Ghostbusters. He's topping the list here. It's the library boss, Azit Lord the Destroyer, which is a phantasmic boss. This thing is one of the few bosses in the Ghostbusters game that literally had me scared and running. Like, oh my god. It's just a great, threatening entity, which is awesome. So here's a little context. In the lore of the game, this guy called, what was it? Who was named the Collector, aka Edmund Hoover. It took me a while to get it. Edmund Hoover, who was he was a collector of many rare books, and he was an occultist who worshipped Gozer. And he was a bit of a serial killer who collected his victims' bodies like he collected books. And I love how the game basically tells us this. I mean, yeah, it's in a cutscene and everything, but at least they still talk about it, and he is the reason why the Gray Lady, the librarian ghost, is dead. And going through the library level in the real world, especially the children's room, the children's area, it's terrifying of what it's assumed that he did. Oh boy. Upon his death after being hanged, he swore to return as a deity to protect the library and every book in his collection, which he did in the Ghost World version of the library. And okay, to be honest, when I first played the Ghostbusters game, this was way in 2009. I had no clue of what to expect, because our first couple boss fights were Slimer, Papa Sargassi, and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. So I had no clue what to expect. I mean, also the librarian ghost. So I was expecting a giant monster made of all the rare books and pages, like a book golem. But boy, was I freaking wrong. This thing is a towering phantasmal beast, and I love it. With debris from all the furniture in the area swirling around him, with this black sludge creating his body in that giant golden mask of his. Holy crap! This thing is a behemoth. Probably my favorite boss fight in the game because of its sheer size and might. Considering it will send shockwaves to you and create spikes coming out of the ground going throughout the entire section of the fight. Luckily, there's portals on each side of the arena to teleport, so you go in this way, you come out this way, in order to get away from him fast. First, you gotta unslime his mask, and then you're with Egon and Ray in this boss fight. They'll hold him down while you rip his mask off. And then the real fun begins, where you gotta proton stream his face multiple times, but he will get close to you, and I've never said get away, get away, get away, get away, get the hell away from me faster in my life. Also, considering these guys will die a majority of the time throughout the boss fight, leaving it to you to save them, while at the same time not getting your own ass handed to you. I died a number of times on this boss, and that's a good thing. He was a challenge. The design is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's disgusting. It's menacing. It's everything. And yes, he doesn't do typical ghost things like phase through the wall, but this just shows what an angry, evil, malicious, serial killer-ish spirit can become with the right context and everything. Everything about this character, from his lore to his design to the boss fight to the overall, and plus being in the Ghost World library. You'd think being in the library wouldn't be that cool of an environment, but because, again, this is the Ghost World, and they can morph the environment to look supernatural and everything about it, it just adds to the overall enjoyment of the boss fight. And that is why Azitlor, the Destroyer, is my favorite ghost boss from literally a ghost video game that everyone else on this list, they didn't stand a ghost of a chance being number one. And that's it for this list, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the end of Villain Month for 2023. I hope you guys enjoyed the list. I hope you guys enjoyed the videos this month. Like, comment, subscribe down below. And it's November, my month. And you know what? I enjoyed coming up with this ghost list. I honestly wish I had other ghost stuff to talk about, but I can't think of anything. No. No, not again. No, I thought I wasn't doing those for a while. I guess, you know what? Maybe that's just a prank on me because it is almost Halloween. Join me next week, ladies and gentlemen, where I am going ghost with another... Wait, what? We're going to kick off November with a... No, well, I'm not doing another Rider video, am I? I'm not doing another Rider video, right? No!